Hello, everybody. How many people we got here today? Let me see. 19? That looks good. So yeah, last week we tried this and had some really bad success. So hopefully we do better today. I got new internet service, so Cox was coming and going. They've been doing that for a couple months. Sorry, I'm eating some blueberries. I shouldn't do that. And so my internet service came and went, and it seemed real good when I did the live stream. It had been solid for several days, and then it waited till I was on the live stream to crap out on me again. So I went to CenturyLink. We'll see. Hopefully that works better. So far, so good. It says my stream is excellent condition, so that's a good sign. Okay. If you guys got questions, you can go ahead and shoot those anytime. I've got some stuff to talk about, but I'm kind of waiting to see if people show up. I got some new stuff to show you. I can show you that. So I went out to California not long ago, and I visited Tony Soares, and he's just such a nice guy and really expert at what he does, which is that paddle and anvil pottery. And so he gave me some books. He's got an amazing library of pottery-related books. And he had some duplicates of some that he gave me, and then he lent me one as well. So I thought I'd show you these books. This one's about Maria Martinez. And, she's more famous for her black on black pottery, but she did some amazing polychrome pottery as well, and that's what's on the cover here. So it's a really nice book. It's got some great pictures. And then From This Earth, Ancient Art of Pueblo Pottery, and it's got a nice collection of sherds on the front here. So another neat looking book that I haven't had a chance to dig into yet, but there's a lot of prehistoric pieces in here. They're not, it says the Ancient Art of Pueblo Pottery, so it kind of makes me think of more historic or modern Pueblo pottery, but there's a lot of historic Pueblo pottery, but there's a lot of prehistoric as well. Here's a nice San Ildefonso polychrome right there too. So this one, which I'd seen before, but I don't think I'd ever actually read, and that's the story of Casas Grandes pottery. So this was around way back when I was in high school, and this was one of the books that I had seen around when I was trying to learn pottery. So we'll see how that. Oh, and then I'll show you this one. This is actually one of the books that that Tony mentions in the video that comes out tomorrow about Tony. This one is one of the ones that he used for inspiration, that he was able to learn from. I think he says that he kind of figured the stuff out that it teaches, but it justified what he was doing. It told him that he was doing it the right way. And this is Papago Indian pottery. So what they used to call, or what we call Tohono O'odham, used to be called Papago back years ago. And so this book, I don't know, it's from the 50s or something. And 1962. So, and it's got some really great photographs of pottery in there, and also there's photographs in here of them making pottery. So there's pictures of them firing and producing pottery. So really good book. And this one is a loaner, so I have to give this back to Tony when I'm done. So that video about Tony Soares comes out tomorrow. All right. You see, I have some notes here on stuff I wanted to talk about today. So I posted on the community tab in YouTube and asked for people to give me ideas for what I should do for my 10,000 subscribers video, and I got a lot of suggestions, a lot of really good suggestions there actually. And so if you have any more ideas for videos, you can go down to that community tab and leave those on that post, and I'll use those. So I'm not going to use many of them here today because a lot of them didn't lend themselves to a live stream, that sort of thing. One that was real common that I saw a lot of posts about, and that was cooking. And I'd love to do something with cooking, but as you can see, I'm not in my studio today. I'm in my office. And that's because the temperature has been really hot here. And so I wouldn't want to cook here in my office. And then, it's so hot, I don't think I want to cook out in the studio either. So once it gets cooler, I'll do something like that. I've got some pots that I want to try cooking in. And I've got that milk sealing video coming up. I still haven't shot it. I'm waiting for Motts. Motts is taking care of some things, and he's going to help me with that because he's done a lot of experimentation with milk sealing. So once I do that, then I'll even have more pots that I want to use for the cooking. So that'll be real good, hopefully. And so there's other ideas, anyways, on that community tab. When I was talking about the 10,000 subscribers, there's a lot of good ideas. And if you left an idea there that I haven't used or I don't use today, don't worry, I will get to it. I will definitely get to it in the future. I'm just, there's only so many things I can roll in here. So, 10,000 subscribers. Let's just real quick talk about, what that means. I mean, when I started out, I would post a video and it even if I shared it on Facebook or someplace, it would get, 10 views, 12 views. And so it can be really frustrating when you start out to try to, you think, and people are getting these plaques that YouTube sends out for 100,000 subscribers. You might as well ask somebody to fly to the moon when you've got a dozen subscribers and you're getting 5 views on a video. It's very discouraging. And this was, first of all, this primitive pottery, prehistoric pottery, that was my passion, and so I was motivated by my own desires to make the videos. But besides that, I knew it was super niche, and I knew that there was nobody else doing that, and so I knew if I found the right people, if the right people could find me, then I could build an audience. And so I just kept struggling and moving forward, knowing that. And so it's a funny thing. It snowballs. Like that first 100 subscribers, it takes forever to get to 100 subscribers, and then that first 500, it just is such a long, hard slog. But like, out of that 10,000, the first 5,000 was hard. The second 5,000 was more than half as easy. It snowballs as you go. So the more views you get, the more YouTube puts your videos in front of new people, and the more subscribers you get. So it's building up now. It's getting more and more. So I thank you all for subscribing and supporting what I'm doing here, because it means a lot to me. But it also, besides that, it's a subject that I'm passionate about. It makes it possible for me to work harder on this, to make this more of a full-time job and to make better videos. So, that 10,000 means a lot to me. Now, I've still got a long way to go to get to 100,000, but I see that it's snowballing. So 100,000 seems more achievable now, given, that it's snowballing and I'm at 10. So I appreciate everything, and it's really been fun getting to 10,000. It's been hard. But it's fun, and it's fun to see how it builds, and how, like that John Olson video, I think it's at like 17,000 views right now. So, I mean, that's less than a month old, and it's going berserk, and it's bringing in new subscribers. So that kind of stuff is gold for my channel as far as getting subscribers. Compass West said, after you finish forming your pottery and the clay is still damp, when should you first apply the slip? I always apply slip to greenware. Now, you can slip dry pottery, but there's a whole bunch of problems that slipping dry pottery causes. Problems with slipping dry pottery. Okay, so first of all, you're adding moisture to a dry pot, and as that clay underneath absorbs that moisture and starts to expand, because clay expands when it gets wet, you can cause crackage. This is especially true if you're slipping the inside of a bowl, because the pressure on the inside of a bowl is outward. It will literally push the bowl apart. On the outside of a pot, you can have the same problem if you get it too wet. So first of all, you don't want to add too much slip too fast, otherwise you're rehydrating that base clay and you can have cracking. But second of all, you have trouble with getting adherence. So the clay is shrinking. The slip, also being a clay, is shrinking. You want those to shrink at the same rate, or otherwise, they separate or they crack. So if you slip while it's still green, the slip and the base clay can shrink together. If the base clay has already shrunk, i.e. it's bone dry, and the slip has not shrunk, it's just been applied, then you have a differential there, and you're more likely to get cracking or flaking off. So it's just easier to slip green. The other thing about that is then you can polish while it's still green too. So if it's dry, then polishing becomes, or burnishing becomes more difficult once it's dry. You have to re-wet it to burnish it. Whereas if it's green, you can just burnish and burnish and burnish. So I always slip green, but that's because I don't sand. Now, modern Pueblo potters, modern Ortiz potters, they always sand their pottery, which is something I don't do because prehistoric people didn't have access to sandpaper. They didn't sand their pottery. So if I was sanding, I'd be forced to do bone dry, but my recommendation is slipping while it's, leather hard. Crow Studios, is there a way to test clay pottery to make sure it's safe to cook and drink out of? Okay, so I had this, somebody made a comment about this recently on YouTube, and there probably is. I just don't know what it is. I personally, and this is just my personal opinion, I think the chances of finding clay that is dangerous to eat out of and drink off of, that is the clay itself has dangerous chemicals in it or something, are so slight, that it's not hardly worth worrying about. But, look, a lot of people I know eat off of, including myself, eat or drink out of earthenware clay that hasn't been tested. And I don't know any of them that are dropping dead or getting weird diseases. I mean, it happens to all of us that we get sick, right? I think you're more dangerous eating junk food from the 7-Eleven than eating out of earthenware because it has more weird chemicals in it, right? But that's just me. I don't know. But there are ways. I just don't know what they are. Crow Studios. So, that's quite the name. Chroma Tepelma Cyropublicines asks, or says, only drawback in your pottery is the geographic range of it. American pottery is really nice, but I would like to see others too. Wish you best. Oh yeah, for sure. And my pottery is called Ancient Pottery. My channel is called Ancient Pottery, but really it's very geographically specific. It's ancient pottery of the American Southwest, which I'm not covering European pottery. I'm not covering Egyptian pottery. Right? There's a whole world out there of ancient pottery that we could talk about. I'm in the American Southwest, right? So it makes it real easy for me to visit museums and ruins and gather the correct clay. I might be able to make a video now and then about ancient Korean pottery, for example. But I'm certainly not going to be able to go collect those clays and maybe talk to potters and, that kind of thing. So I certainly couldn't delve as in depth. I'm not averse to doing videos about other ancient potteries, but certainly the focus of my channel is the Southwest. And I think I'm not just selling the pottery in my channel. I'm selling the land too. That's why there's a lot of landscape photography in my videos. You'll see native plants and animals of the Southwest because I think that's part of the appeal to it is the land. And if you live here, it's all rather mundane. But if you live in Europe, the American Southwest can be very exotic and interesting. So I'm not averse to covering other subjects. It's hard for me, because I'm in the Southwest. And it is my passion. Permatrout says, agreed, would you ever consider traveling further abroad to explore traditional pottery in other regions? Yeah, like I just said, Permatrout, that would be awesome. I have talked to a guy about teaching a workshop in Portugal, and he's really enthusiastic about it. The only limiting factor to me is getting to Portugal, right? So it costs, maybe if I get a good deal, I can get $1,000 for a round-trip ticket to Portugal. But I can't go without my wife, right? So that's $2,000 now. It's just, I don't know if I'm going to make enough money on the workshop to pay for the tickets. And then there's the COVID thing. Like, are we able to travel to Portugal yet? I'm not sure we are, but I would love to. Look at me, right? My ancestry is European. I'm very interested in European pottery specifically. Not that I'm not interested in Japanese pottery and African pottery. I am. I would love to travel all over the world to show you ancient pottery. Right now, I don't have the money to do it. But, maybe someday, right? That'd be awesome. I would love that. Let's see. Do we have another question? Ren Pixie, any observations on the usability of the clay samples from the Little Colorado collection samples? Oh, yeah. Let me cover that. So I did a bunch of experiments, and I've been processing clay, and having a lot of fun testing that stuff I picked up in the little Colorado. This stuff here, this stuff is gold. It is so nice. It is so plastic. This is the stuff from Chinle Point. So Chinle Point is an archaeological site near the Mogollon Rim. And this is just down the hill from the ruin. And it's really nice. I haven't built anything out of it yet, but I'm hoping to soon. And it's a really nice light gray color, so hopefully it will fire to a nice white color. But I did do a test pot out of this that fired, so I know it fires good. This has 20% ground sured temper in it right now. But that was the one I fired with my friend Bill up in Chandler. And so he did 2 firings that night. The one was an open firing where we fired it, took the pots out. The pot I had in that fire was Pinedale clay, which also works good, and I have a block of it. I'm going to build the Oya out of that Pinedale clay. That's also pretty good, and that's right on the road near Pinedale. This one went in the one that was supposed to be smothered, was going to be kind of a reduction firing, right? So limited oxidation, as Clint Swink calls it. And he didn't open that until the next morning, and so I had to go back to Tucson, and so he has my pot. It did fire good. I just didn't get a chance to look at it close, see what the colors are and that kind of thing. So yeah, Ren Pixie, I've got some really good stuff, and I think I sent you some of those locations. But if you think you missed some of the ones I've talked about here, like Pinedale or Chinle Point, shoot me another email and I will share those with you. Puri Tube says, can we use limestone from the river to make pottery? Limestone is calcium carbonate, and calcium carbonate is a problem for making pottery because, let's see, I'm doing 2 things at once here. I can't walk and chew gum, my mom used to tell me. So calcium carbonate in a fire, once it goes over like 800 degrees, 850, somewhere in there, there's a line where calcium carbonate turns into quicklime. So there's a chemical reaction. It turns into quicklime, which is fine. It's kind of just sits in the body of your clay. But then when your pot gets wet, and this can even be atmospheric moisture, like, it's a humid day, that quicklime will start to react. And it'll heat up and it will expand and it will cause spalls on your pots. So sometimes the pot could have been made years ago. I mean, it could be a 10-year-old pot. Suddenly, you take a damp cloth and you wipe off some dust, and the next day there's bits of your pot missing. So calcium carbonate is dangerous to pottery. You either have to, like the ancient Hohokam did, keep your temperature below, keep your temperature below like 800 degrees or somewhere in there, really low temperature firing, or avoid calcium carbonate like the plague. And it has a lot of different forms. So like limestone, caliche, which is common here in the Southwest, and even like seashells and things like that can be forms of calcium carbonate that can cause spalls in your pottery. So be careful. I would avoid limestone if I was you. Pots and congrats on 10,000. Yes, thank you, Pots and Paints. Really, like I said, it was a real challenge to get here. I'm glad to be at 10,000 and keep going forward because it opens up possibilities for me more for making this a full-time job, full-time income. Nice backdrop. So I just put this together recently. This is my office. So my computer where I edit videos is right over there. And I wanted something interesting to look at. So we've got all kinds of pottery here and handicrafts from Native Americans in the Southwest. This is a little Mata Ortiz pot. This is an Acoma pot I bought up at Acoma Pueblo a few years back. This is a piece of chrysocolla. This is copper carbonate. So this makes a good paint, pottery paint. This is a little Dragoon red on brown pot I made a few years ago. This is a Maricopa pot. This was made by Ron Carlos, who's a really great accomplished potter over there. This is a basket that was made by the Series down in Mexico. This is a piece of hematite. This is what you use for your red pigment. This is a Hopi pot I bought many years ago up on First Mesa. Here's a Seri ironwood carving. Now, a lot of these ironwood carvings are done with machines by Mexicans. Nothing against the Mexicans that do it, but it's traditional among the Seri. This one I know came from a Seri because I traded a Seri some things for it. This is that little Maverick Mountain polychrome mug that I made on a video a while back. Here's some natural pigments. I've got some yellow and copper carbonate. hematite all processed, and then a little Dragoon red on brown bowl that I made a few years ago. Just some eye candied, so it's not a boring wall behind me. Message retracted, Rusty Shackelford. Okay. Hi from Michigan, Nathan Miller. Carmel Horse. I have no experience with pottery, but I was planning on making a kick wheel to get started. Is a kick wheel decent for beginners, or should I buy an electric one? Yeah, not my cup of tea. I've never made pottery on a wheel. I kind of remember playing with a kick wheel when I was a kid. I mean, a little kid, like 8, maybe. So I can't really help you there. Carmel Horse, you could start doing coil pottery. It's a good way to start. And then you don't have any expenditures into equipment or anything. I mean, you can make coil pottery with, just get yourself a little something, that you can scrape the pot with. This is made out of a gourd, but I have a video where I show how to make one out of like a laundry detergent container, And then you get a little base for your pot. This one's made out of plaster of Paris, but you can use a bowl out of your kitchen. Just put a piece of cloth in it so the clay doesn't stick. Boom. Start making pottery. You don't need expensive equipment, but if you want to make a wheel pot, then you can go that route. There's nothing wrong with that, for sure. Okay, I was going to talk to you about the stuff going on here. So I started doing channel membership. I just turned that on like last week. And I just wanted to briefly, I don't want to sell to you or nothing. I just want to tell you what that is. So channel membership is kind of like Patreon, if you know what that is. So it's just a way that you can support the channel. So if you like what I'm doing, if you enjoy my videos, you want to kind of help me out, you can give like a monthly donation that then I can use to buy new equipment or to travel to far off places to make videos, that kind of thing. And so you'll see that join button down under my videos now, and that's what that is. So you can make a smaller donation or a larger one, and you get something back. So I'm able to do members only live chats. I made special badges and emojis for members. There's going to be members only videos. So every month I'll make behind the scenes and blooper videos that only members will be able to see. And then I give you a coupon. So I have a store, an online store where I sell pottery and gourd scrapers and things like that, and online workshops. You'll get a coupon that you can use there. So there's a bunch of stuff that you get back. Hopefully we feel like it's a win-win for us, that you get something from me and I get something from you. That is a little support in making this channel more of a full-time job. So at 10,000 subscribers, I'm just at that point, where it's starting to be to the point where, maybe I can make this a full-time job and work harder at it for you. So, and like I said, I don't want to be salesy or nothing. I appreciate all y'all are trying to pay your bills and all that. I am too. We're all slogging along. So, but if you want to help out, that'd be great. Alan Beal must have joined. Good for you, Alan. Thank you. I was going to say, I had one member so far, and that was Colleen Automino. So I wanted to thank Colleen for helping me out. And now I'll thank you too, Alan. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. And I'm just trying to make, pottery my job. So like if I was just selling the pots, it's really hard to make a living selling pottery because, you can't sell it for what it's worth when you look at the amount of hours that's put into it, especially this kind of pottery. So teaching pottery or coming on YouTube and making videos about pottery, and still making pottery and selling pottery, but other forms of income is a better way to kind of hopefully make it me able to make that my focus. Angela says, I have both a kick wheel and an electric, but coil pottery satisfies something in a better way. Yeah, it's a little more, like I said, it's just you and the clay, right? It's a person and earth. So it is something very satisfying about that. You're not relying on any technical help. You're not using any technological achievement like a wheel, no mechanized machinery to help you do it. Compass West says, in your journeys out in the field, what is the most interesting artifact you may have stumbled upon? You hear stories about people back in the 1800s, like the first people into this country, and they found all kinds of amazing stuff. So I'll give you an example. During the Mexican-American War, there was General Kearny brought an army from the east out to California, and he was the first real Americans to come through the Gila River Valley. So they came down through like near Silver City, New Mexico, and then down like by Safford, and they came out over by where Phoenix is today. Of course, these cities weren't there then. It was just open country. Now over by Phoenix, there were settled native peoples like the Pimas and the Maricopas, but up along like by Safford, farther east, that was Apache country, very dangerous. And nobody really been in there, not even the Spanish that much, because the Apaches had kept them out. And they found sherds and like pots sticking out all over the place. It was crazy over there. The stuff they found on the surface, walls sticking up. These places had been abandoned since 1450, and here it was 1850, and there were still walls standing. So amazing stuff. By the 1890s, the first archaeologist in that area said it won't be long and these ruins will be gone. And today you can't even find most of those ruins because that ground's all been leveled and plowed over and stuff. So unfortunately, a lot of the long story that I'm getting to here is that a lot of these sites that I visit, they've been picked over by archaeologists and pot hunters and for a century now. And so there's not a lot to find, little sherds. But back in the day, they used to find big pieces of sherds. Those are long gone. Axe heads. Have I ever found an axe? I don't think I've ever found an axe head. Not that they weren't there. They're long ago gone. I get excited when I find a mano now, and that's a pretty mundane tool. The mano is that flat stone that they used to grind corn on. But yeah, that wasn't such a big deal back in the day, right? So let's see, best thing I've ever found. One time I found one of those little bowls. It's a square bowl that has little feet on it, kind of a square made out of like basalt, and they're really neat. I can't really describe it, but they have on the corners they have little points, kind of like feet, but they kind of stick out. And it's all carved out of stone, and it was broken, so it was like half of a stone bowl or 3/4 of a stone bowl. It was coming out of the side of a wash, and we went and got the archaeologist, brought him back. So if you ever go down to the San Pedro Riparian Conservation Area here in Arizona, there's a little visitor center at an old ghost town called Fairbanks. So there's a Fairbanks Visitor Center at the San Pedro Riparian Conservation Area, right on the San Pedro River. And if you go in the old schoolhouse there, there's a display case with some artifacts, and that little bowl I found is in there. Other than that, I get excited about sherds, just painted sherds with a really cool painted design. And when I find those, I will often post those on my Instagram. So if you're not on my Instagram, check that out. So you'll see a lot of those sherds I find on there. Alan Beal, welcome to Polychrome Pottery. Right on. Thanks, Alan. Caramel Horse, I might give Coil Pottery a try. My main concern is that I don't have a kiln or anywhere to pit fire, but I do have metal chimenea. Would that work for fire? I have some friends in Colorado that actually fire in a chimenea, so I would love to go up there and make a video of them doing it, and I might at some point. I haven't yet. I have a video coming out next week. I think it's next week about that firing I did in Chandler with my friend Bill, and so check that out because he's got basically just some bricks stacked up in his backyard and did a very nice firing in a town, in a backyard in a suburban area. So. That'd be worth thinking about as well. And Tony Soares, look at his video about urban Anasazi firing. Look that up on YouTube. That's a good video, and that's another one you could do in a small area like a backyard. Okay, Crow Studios, welcome to Plainware Pottery. Thank you, Crow Studios. I appreciate that. Another member. So let's talk about how I learned pottery, because that's what I promised to show you guys. Let's see. Okay, guys, I'm sorry about that. Oh, thanks, Crow Studios. Crud. I'm so sorry. I talked for a long time too. I'm trying to get this to work. It has to do with my Doggone software. Okay, can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? I think you can. Okay, so the previous one was that duck pot I made was like maybe it was an early pot, like maybe my 20th pot, and then that bowl, which is the logo for the Ameren Foundation in Dragoon, Arizona. This is more the right size. That one was a lot bigger, but the actual bowl is pretty small. And I won some prizes at like the Huachuca Art Association exhibition. So I apologize again for the sound. I see comments coming in saying I'm back. So those were made in maybe like 89, 90. It was before I was married. So I was living at home with my parents at the time I made those pots. I would actually sit on the front porch because my mom wouldn't let me make pottery in the house. I'd sit on the front porch and make pottery. So now this one we're looking at, this was made after I was married. So I was married in 91. No, I was 92. I was married in 92. So this one has to be 93 or 94. And this is kind of a Tucson Polychrome. And this was fired on my property. So one of the early things I did was I bought this 40 acres out in Hereford, Arizona. And we lived out there off the grid, without power for a long time. And so this is a little Polychrome pot I made, and it came out real good. This was one of my real early good polychromes that come out. The black paint, I didn't understand putting a fixative in the black paint. It's manganese paint, and so it's a little bit, you can rub it off. Other than that, it's a good pot. And this pot I just saw recently. It's my brother has. It's at my brother's house. So let's see. Next one. This was the same batch. So it's the same clay, it's the same slip and the same paint as that previous one. Around the same time. It might have been the same firing, but I don't know. And this one is around somewhere. It's at my house, but most of that, a lot of that black paint is rubbed off because I've moved a lot over the years. And every time you move it, you wrap it up in paper and you stick it in a box, and it shifts around in there. So the black paint isn't looking so good. That's that one. And that, like I said, maybe 94 if I had to guess. So I was making progress slowly. But at this point, right, I started having a family. So my time making pottery was limited. So I didn't have as much time. Around this time, when I married my wife, she already had a son, a baby. And then we had our own child. And so, as the family grew, pottery diminished because it just didn't have that much time. So this is maybe, by the time my kids were getting like 6th grade, 7th grade, I started having more time to play with pottery again because they didn't need so much effort and they could help me with stuff. They could go on expeditions with me and collect clay and things. So this was maybe 2003 maybe. I was living here in Tucson area, and there's some Hohokam Mogollon type pots that I made around that time. And then, let's see, this was probably around the same time, so 2004 or 5, somewhere in there. And you can see that tall, like, kind of vase-looking one with the tall neck. The bottom broke out. I was trying to take a picture in such a way that you couldn't tell. And I suppose I could go into Photoshop and just make that all black in there. Nobody noticed. But if you look down inside there, you can see sticks on the other side. So... and so, let's see, where are we at now? Okay, so this is my last picture. This was the first workshop I ever taught. This was at Tohono Chul Park in Tucson, and that had to have been about 2006. It was spring of 2006, I know it was. And that's my son Aubrey with me there helping me. And that was a dung firing, which I don't do a lot of, but if you're in a space where you don't want to make a lot of smoke or sparks, that kind of thing, dung firing is a good way to go. So that's what we did there. And that, if I was gonna, tell the story to go along with these pictures, it would just be that I was inspired by the prehistoric stuff. I was kind of an artist, and I was interested in archaeology as a kid, and so I wanted to figure out how to make it myself, and I worked really hard to try to do that. But I didn't have my nose is so itchy. I didn't have a lot of success. reading books, there's only so much information in those books that aren't really designed for a potter. They're there for like the interested collector. And so I didn't make a lot of progress until I met the Thornburgs. Now, Paul and Laurel Thornburg are replicators, really fine pottery replicators who live in Sonoyta, Arizona. I grew up in Sierra Vista, so Sonoyta, if you look at a map, is not that far away. And so I managed. They had an article about their work in the August 1989 issue of Arizona Highways. And shortly after that, I was able to meet them, and they really set me on my way, told me what I need to know, and kind of gave me a gorge scraper and told me where I could dig clay in the local area. And they were really the foundation for, which is why the first picture I showed, the one with the duck, and let's see, that's still here. So a picture of the duck and that, these were made with that clay that they showed me where to dig there in Benson. So they were my foundation, and that's why, anything that was made before that, you wouldn't even want to look at, right? But once they set me on the way in 89, like I said, this was 89 or 90, then I started making progress. So well, that is my story. Let's see if I missed some comments here. Let's go back. I've fired in a kettle grill, but only got up to 850. 850 is respectable. You could go a lot lower and still fire your pottery, Angela. So if you could do a kettle grill 850, I'd be perfectly happy with that. Will you share your spot for the white slip, SF? I have a bunch of white slips, so it depends on which white slip. Do you live in Arizona? Are you someplace that you can collect white slip? Tell you what, SF, go on my website, ancientpottery.how, go to the contact form, shoot me an email, and I will hook you up with white slip, okay? Crow Studios, you muted yourself, lost audio out, no sound, you're muted. It's always something with me. I'm getting it. This is the other thing about YouTube, right? Like, I took 30 years to learn pottery, and a little bit at a time, just chugging away, and then now I got to learn photography and videography and video editing, and so it's always something. And I'm not complaining. I enjoy learning new things, but And I have a tendency to, I like technology. I'm trained as a web developer, so it's similar, it's just different. And so anyways, this live streaming makes me use a different piece of software called OBS, which again is just different from what I'm used to. So I'm learning how to use it. And I made a mistake last time too regarding sound. So I'm getting there. You're muted. As soon as you posted the pic, you became muted. No sound, lost your volume. Hear you now. All good. Lucia Cruz, at my ex-husband's property, lots of sherds. Yeah, it's fun to go out someplace where there's an old village and just look at the sherds and collect, and not collect, bring them home, but look at them. I always leave them where they're at. Look, even if they're your sherds, right? You're on somebody's property. Like I said, these people that came through in 1850, there were artifacts everywhere, big ones, and imagine what that must have felt like to find. Okay, and now we're just finding little ones, right? What are our grandchildren going to find out there, right? Is there going to be anything left? That thrill of discovery, let's preserve that. Let's keep that thrill of discovery there for the next person. What are your thoughts and research on the life of pots prehistorically? Was it a lifetime use, or were the cases of pieces getting passed down generationally? There's been some archaeological work on this subject, Crow Studios. People trying to determine, how long pots lasted. And I know that some of these pots, let's face it, these pots are fragile. And so if you go to a ruin and you look at their garbage dump, their trash middens, they're loaded with sherds because they were breaking pots all the time. They may have replaced pots, at least yearly they were replacing a lot of pots. But there may have been ones that were special, that were cherished, that weren't used every day for cooking, for example, where they wouldn't wear out and they were passed down. And so sometimes, no Coke before a live stream makes me burp. Sometimes they dig these ruins, right, archaeologists, and they find pottery that doesn't belong there, like it's old, right? So this particular room, let's say they did a tree ring dating on the roof, and they know that this room was built in 1350. But in the room, there's a beautiful pot that dates to 1250, right? And it wasn't being made up to 1350. What is it doing here, right? Did they find it? Was it grandma's pot? So there is some, some ideas on that. Over at Howiku at Zuni, which was a Zuni Pueblo that lived in up until the Pueblo Rebellion, which is 16 something, I think, 1625, somewhere in there. I could be wrong. They found Salado Polychrome at Howiku, which has an end date of like 1450. So then they go, well, were these like family heirlooms perhaps? It's an interesting subject, I think, to think about, but it's hard to know for sure. It's just generally it's a lot of speculation. I mean, I enjoy speculation. A lot of my videos and even my book, Mud Puzzles, has a lot to do with speculating on what was going on. I don't think there's anything wrong with that per se. I enjoy that. But I think you can't know for sure. You can't know for sure about this. Dear Yahoo, looks great and sounds great. Thank you, Andy. I appreciate that, dear Yahoo. Lucia Cruz, I live west of Tucson. Oh, okay, yeah. So you're the one that said, sure, is it your husband's property? Yeah. Well, west of Tucson, there were a lot of people here in the Tucson area, prehistoric. I mean, not like today, but there were a lot of people because there's sites all around the Tucson area. This was like an oasis back then. This was a place where there was water surrounded by dry desert. Good place for agriculture, and these were agricultural people. So, fantastic, yeah. Chris in Kansas. On the plains, prior to modern agriculture, pottery sherds were apparently the most common of finds. Not so much now. Beat up smaller. Yeah, and trampled on by cows for the last 150 years, right? Cows can be really hard on a ruin, causing erosion, causing the walls to break down, whatever's left of them. Smashing pottery into smaller and smaller bits. On my property, there's cows. It's 40 acres and it's not fenced off. And Arizona has open range laws, which means the rancher is allowed to run his cows on my property without permission. It's up to me as the property owner to fence them out if I don't want those cows there. So I don't really like the open range law, but back when Arizona laws were put in place, when Arizona became a state, the ranchers owned this state. They ran everything. They made these rules. And so that's what we're dealing with. So it's going to cost, if I do all the work, it cost about $4,000 or maybe probably a little more to fence off my whole 40 acres and keep those cows off of it. But I'm determined to do it because they are nothing but trouble. But yeah, you hear, like Chris said, you hear these stories of the early people and the stuff they used to find. And those days are gone, like I said, axe heads, you don't find those. Little small things you can still find really cool, like little turquoise pendants or turquoise beads, shell carved into like bracelets and such. So lots of cool small things because they're harder to find. They're harder for people to walk over and spot. But yeah. You just don't find good stuff anymore. Big pieces of pot sticking up out of the ground, unheard of. There was this place over there where this guy had actually run the rippers on his cat through there, and he'd ripped across the site one way and he'd ripped across it the other, trying to bring up all the metates. Just destroyed the site. And there used to be big chunks of pottery sticking up out of the ground when I was a kid over there because he'd done that damage to the site. You find a big piece of pottery coming out of the ground where somebody'd run a cat across it, that doesn't necessarily make you feel good about finding it. It just emphasizes the damage that was done, the pottery that was probably destroyed when that guy ran his cat through the site. Oh, what are we at? 9:46. So I'll show you what I had. I bought this new deal. I don't know if I have enough cord here. Maybe I do. It's a little rotator. So it goes around and around, so I can photograph pottery. I can't. Okay, let's change my camera here. Can you see it? So I can photograph pottery all the way around. It only has one speed, but I can speed it up. I can, once I've got the video, I can speed the video up and make it run at any speed I want. So pretty cool. I just bought that off Amazon. It came yesterday. So I'm excited to do some photography of pots with that. And, you know, if you look at Clint Swink's book, Messages from the High Desert, he had this way of, he had like mirrors like that came around on 3 sides. So you could take a picture of the pot and you could see the back of the pot at the same time. So that was a good, excuse me, that was a good way to photograph pottery and show all sides of the pottery. But I think, you know, this is another good idea as far as, because when you photograph one side of the pot, you don't know what the other side looks like. Well, if it rotates, you can get the whole thing. So excited to try that. Now what I was gonna do originally, but I wasn't sure how many questions I was gonna get, was work on that little pot. So if I change the camera here, and you can see what I've got here. The trouble with the camera is it wants to focus on my face so bad that everything else will be blurry but my face. It's got, like, you know, face recognition. Just working on that edge. Let me transfer back to the other camera. Oh, phone call. Turn your phone off before you live stream, right? Caramel Horse says, I'm in Scotland, so most of our pots are from prehistory and are already in museums or long lost due to land development. Yeah, that's what we're getting to here. Finds are very rare these days. Yeah, but you know, it won't be long. Arizona and New Mexico will be the same way. You won't find anything out there. Of course, the other thing about Scotland, or, you know, places where plants grow, is the ground is covered with grass, you know, or sod. And so those artifacts are hidden underneath that. And so the advantage we have here in the Southwest is it's desert, and so those artifacts are sitting right on the dirt, and they're more easy to find too. SF is what I would call the Chinle Formation clay. Yes, the Chinle Formation is clay. Most of the Chinle Formation, that's a layer that they have up in northern Arizona, for those of you that don't know. And like, if you've ever seen pictures of the Painted Desert or Petrified Forest National Park, that's all Chinle Formation. A lot of Chinle Formation is bentonite, so not really good for forming pots out of. Some of it is. I mean, experiment, you know. But a lot of it, bentonite, or has a high shrinkage rate, so it can be really difficult to make pottery out of if it's going to shrink a lot and crack when it dries. Sound is gone again? Are you pulling my chain? What? No. I wonder what happened. Love your moving pot. Sound is gone. Got it. Sounds good. Wow, that's weird. The sound was gone? I don't know what I did. Sorry, guys. Like I said, I'm learning this OBS software, and I don't know what I did wrong to mess up the sound. The moving pot. Yeah, I think that's going to be cool for photography, for photographing pots. Jeff Cooper says, learning primitive pottery because I love ceramic art, but I would like your thoughts on how the market is for primitive replicas. Yeah, you know, you got to have the right market for sure. If you're trying to make, like, yeah, I talked about this earlier. Like, I think it's really hard if you wanted to, like, you know, make a living making primitive pottery, and people do. The Thornburgs I talked about, you know, they were hardcore, and they made replicas, for a whole career, lifetime. I think they're retired now, but I don't think they were getting rich on it. They lived in a yurt when I visited them. I know, no, I'm not trying to say anything bad about living in a yurt, honestly. But I don't think they were making bank on it, and their pots sold for good money. It's just primitive. This kind of pottery, there's a lot of, I'm going to throw this phone out the window. I'm sorry. It takes a lot of time. There's just so much labor involved. If you're going to do it right, you're collecting clay and you're bringing it back and you're processing that clay and you're hand coiling the pots, and then you're going out and getting the materials for the minerals, and you're processing that, and you're painting them on, and then you're firing them outdoors. It's like a production potter, like somebody that works in a studio. They crank out, they'll make 100 tankards in a day. But here with this kind of, you might make one pot a day if you're lucky. I just don't know. Even if you had a good market, like you were selling them in museum gift shops and such, I would think that'd be a good place. You have to sell them for several $100s or $1,000 each, and then that limits your market right there. But that's just because of how much time and effort you've spent making this pot. Jeff, I don't know that it's something you're going to go into to make up money on. It's either going to be something like this, where you're teaching others, or you're doing it as a passion, or you're doing it as a sideline. I just don't. They sell replica pottery at the gift shop at Mesa Verde, and I know several potters that sell at the Mesa Verde gift shop. I also know a potter who pulled his stuff out of the Mesa Verde. Mesa Verde is a national park in Colorado where there's some really massive Indian runs. I know a potter who pulled his stuff out of the Mesa Verde gift shop because they weren't offering him enough money for it. They wanted him to sell cheaper. So, when it comes to making a living at it, I support selling for a living wage, something that's actually going to make you, feel like your time isn't wasted. So, I don't know. I don't know where a regular, a market is. You could talk to the gift shops at places like the Arizona State Museum or Casa Grande National Park and stuff, but there's only so many of those places. I don't know. That's just my thoughts on it. Angela says, we're just calling to tell you your sound was out. Oh, you! Now I know who to blame, Angela. Okay, I'm just kidding. Help out and hit the like button. Oh yes, everybody, listen to Anthony now. Smash that like button for me, because that'll help boost this video. Sounds good now. So I have no idea what I know what happened the first time. I have no idea what happened the sound the second time, so I apologize. Happens when you change cameras. Oh? When I do it. Angela, are you doing it again? This person says Tucson. I don't know what's going on. My stupid phone. Literally, I can usually go, I'm putting it on airplane mode, okay? I can usually go all day and not get a phone call. It's ridiculous. 9:55, I have 5 more minutes. Let's see. Just at the beginning of the build. Yeah, that's weird. At the beginning of the build it went out. I don't know. I mean, you have sound now, right? I changed cameras, right? You have sound now. And then I changed cameras again. I still have sound, right? I don't know. SF, do you have any tips on working with clay in this Arizona heat? Yeah, avoid it like the plague, okay? I talked about this in my upcoming video. Now, I'm ahead on my videos, so the video I make this week won't be out for like 3 weeks because I'm ahead, and I like to be ahead because that way if something happens, I don't feel, urgently I have to get a video out and then I have to do, low quality video work, right? So the video I made last week, which is coming out in, 2 weeks or something, I talk about the heat. It's brutally hot. I tried making a pot out there. I thought, man, I wanted to make that Ancient Pottery Challenge Oya. And so I went out to my studio was on a back porch, in case you don't know, and I worked on it, and I thought, well, I'm going to do it late at night because that's when it gets cool. So I waited till 9 o'clock at night to start, and I worked on it for like an hour. I had the walls about maybe 4 inches above the pookie, and It was just brutally hot. I was sweating and it was miserable. And then I was doing bad quality work because I was trying to rush, right? Not a good way to do pottery. So I smooshed it all up and put it back in the lump. And then I did some work. I did another video, the one I made last week, and I made a pot here in my office. So this is kind of set up as like a little temporary studio, but that you just got to find a place to work inside because it's too hot. You're not going to do your best work. It's going to be terrible. Don't do it. Yeah. Chris in Kansas, it's back and was temporary with side view and then back. That was weird, Chris. I don't know. The bloopers kind of make it fun. Yeah. Okay, thanks. I appreciate your support there, Chris. Jeff says, big profit is not important. Thanks. Yeah, no, I'm not saying big profit like we're all going to get rich, but I mean, you want to pay your electric bill, right? You want to be able to put gas in your car. So Angela says, I did not call the second time. Okay. Are you sure? No, it was a Tucson number, whoever it was. Last Minute Laura. Hey there, Andy. I've been following your channel for some time now, and I've learned so much. Thanks for your videos. Thanks, Last Minute Laura. I appreciate that. I have now made several pots from my backyard clay and from local river clay. I fired them in a summer fire pit. And in the winter, I used my wood-burning fireplace. It's been a real joy. Thank you. Hello from Southern Ontario, Canada. Nice. Okay, good. I'm glad to hear that, Laura. That's what it's all about. So going back to what I was talking about earlier, like how I learned and my struggle to kind of learn when I was 18, 19, 20 years old. Before I met, well, I guess I was 18 when I met the Thornburg. Like I said, the Thornburg set me on my way. But when I was trying to learn, there was no information about it. There was no books. There was no YouTube about primitive pottery. And so what my hopes with this channel and with what I'm doing here is to help those, those people that are coming up now that are trying to learn that they don't have to struggle the way I did. I'll show you something I got here real quick. So this is my only Thornburg pot. This is the Thornburg's work. You can see their signature on the bottom if it'll focus on that. And this one's broken. That's why you can see the crack here and here. This was something that was broken, but when I bought it, it was actually in two pieces, and they sold it to me cheap because of that. So, and I glued it together, and it's a little dirty. I've used it to make pookies on the bottom, and that may be one of the sources of dirt because they've got a nice rounded shape. I was actually forming pookies on the bottom of this at one point, but beautiful. And this is an actual pot. A replica of an actual members pot, and it says on the bottom Schwartz ruin. So I've seen pictures of the actual pot. It looks very, very similar to that. But they did beautiful work. I'm using past tense because I heard they retired. But yeah, they did beautiful work. You can look up their work online if you look for like Thornburg's Pottery, and you'll see they did some amazing stuff back in the day. All right, I'm out of time here. Do we have any last minute thoughts on anything? I'll close up. I didn't get very far on this. Just something to fill the lull between the when I didn't have questions. And but it's nice clay. It's really good clay. That's the main thing. And this is stuff from up on the Mogollon Rim. So I'm going to use this to make the ladle. I don't know if I'll finish that up. I probably won't. If I could make a whole pot today on the live stream, that would be interesting, right? But if I'm not, then I might as well make the whole pot on an actual video that I can release, then you can watch the whole process all the way through. So if I finish this up, it wouldn't be as good as if I just started over later when I can do that. Great channel. I've learned so much from you. Thanks for sharing your knowledge, Matthew Graves. Thank you, Matthew. I appreciate that very much. Dear Yahoo, thank you, Andy. Greetings from Germany. Excellent. Love to see people across the ocean who are enjoying what I'm doing. And like I said, I'm not doing European pottery unless I can get over there. I mean, anybody want to buy me a ticket to Portugal? I'm all for that. Okay. All right, guys. I'm going to take off. I appreciate all of you for following along and subscribing, and the people that bought memberships, Crow Studios and Alan Beal and Colleen Armio. Appreciate you all, everything you do. And For those of you that aren't buying memberships, you know, don't worry. I'm going to keep putting out videos and stuff. The quality of what you're getting will not vary. Okay, thanks guys. I'll catch you next time.